the midbrain, and it connects the forebrain with the midbrain. Here we can see the forebrain, the cerebrum, and here with the midbrain, the brain stem. Okay, so it connects the forebrain with the midbrain, and it's traversed by a narrow channel called the cerebral aqueduct, or the aqueduct of Sylvius, important for MCQ. Okay, so the other name of cerebral aqueduct is the aqueduct of Sylvius, which is always filled with cerebrospinal fluid, and this aqueduct, it connects the third ventricle with the fourth ventricle. So it is traversed by a narrow channel, that aqueduct. So here we can see the ventral surface of the midbrain. The external features in the ventral surface, on each side of the midline, large bundles of the fibers can be seen. They are the cross cerebri. So here we can see the right and the left cross cerebri of the midbrain, the bundles which are on each side of the midline. They are the cross cerebri. And in between these two cross cerebri, here we can see the depression. This deep recess or the depression is known as interpeduncular fossa. So in between the two cross cerebri, these are the cross cerebri, and in between is the recess or the depression, that is known as interpeduncular fossa. So here we can see the boundary of the fossa. This is the optic nerve having the decussation. So optic chiasma, optic tract, and the cross cerebri and the upper surface of the pons. This is the boundary of the interpeduncular fossa, where we can see the tuber cinereum and the mammillary body in the floor. So oculomotor and the trochlear nerve emerge from the medial side and the lateral side of the cross cerebri. So we discuss about the cross cerebri. These are the two bundles. On the medial aspect, here we can see the oculomotor or the third cranial nerve, and on the lateral aspect we can see the trochlear or the fourth cranial nerve. So this is the cross cerebri, this one is the interpeduncular fossa, this is the oculomotor nerve, and this one is the trochlear nerve. So they are very important features in the ventral surface. Talking about the interpeduncular fossa, the depression or the recess between the cross cerebri, they are bounded anteriorly by the optic chiasma, as we have seen just now. Anterolaterally is the optic tract. So this is the optic chiasma. This one is the optic tract, which forms the pathway for the optic nerve. Posterolaterally is the crura cerebri. So these two are the crura cerebri on the lateral aspect, and posteriorly the cranial border of the pons. And the floor here we can see is the tuber cinereum and the median eminence. So these tuber cinereum and median eminence are the floor which are present on the floor of the interpeduncular fossa. So interpeduncular fossa is bounded by optic chiasma, optic tract, cross cerebri, upper surface of the pons, and the floor here we can see is the tuber cinereum and the mammillary body. So laterally the midbrain is overlapped by the parahippocampal gyrus. So here it will be the parahippocampal gyrus. We'll discuss while taking the class of cerebrum. And laterally midbrain is overlapped by the parahippocampal gyrus. That parahippocampal gyrus is comes under the cerebrum class. Okay, so the medial sulcus, it separates the cross cerebri from the interpeduncular fossa, and the rootlets of the oculomotor nerve emerge through the medial sulcus. So this is the medial sulcus, and the rootlets of the oculomotor nerve can be seen here. So they are the features which are present near to the interpeduncular fossa and the boundary of it. So optic chiasma, optic tract, crura cerebri, and the cranial border of the pons are the boundary of the interpeduncular fossa. In the floor we can see the tuber cinereum and the median eminence, and laterally the parahippocampal gyrus. So here we can see the cross cerebri. This is the rootlets of the oculomotor nerve. This is the rootlets of trochlear nerve, mammillary body, and tuber cinereum, optic chiasma, optic tract. So this is the interpeduncular fossa, and here we can see the small piece of the parahippocampal gyrus, which is on the lateral aspect. Move on to the posterior surface. Do you have any queries? Anybody? Samiksha, are you there? Samiksha, do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Jinnat, are you there? Jinnat. Arjun, are you there? Arjun? If you have any queries, you can ask, okay? So move on to the posterior surface. So the posterior surface of the midbrain, here we can see the very important features, that is the swellings. These swellings are known as colliculi. So this is the superior colliculus on the right and the left side, and this is the inferior colliculus on the right and the left side. So superior and the inferior colliculi are the important features in the posterior aspect of the midbrain. So they are the colliculus, superior colliculus and the inferior colliculus. Superior colliculi are the centers for the visual reflex. So it is the centers for the visual reflex, and the inferior colliculi are the center for the auditory reflex, and there will be the connection of them. In the midline, below the inferior colliculi, the trochlear nerve emerges. So here we can appreciate the trochlear nerve, emergence of the trochlear nerve. So superior colliculi, center for the visual reflex. Inferior colliculi, center for the auditory reflex, and this is the rootlets of the trochlear nerve or the fourth cranial nerve. Once again, this is the floor of the fourth ventricle formed by the posterior surface of the pons and the medulla oblongata, and this is the section of the cerebellum. Each colliculus is related laterally to a ridge called the brachium. So here we can appreciate on the lateral aspect of the colliculi, the bundle is known as brachium. And superior brachium, it connects the superior colliculi to the lateral geniculate body, and the inferior brachium that connects the inferior colliculi to the medial geniculate body. So the superior brachium, center for the visual reflex, it connected with the lateral geniculate body. Inferior brachium connected to the inferior colliculus to the medial geniculate body and responsible for the auditory reflex. Just below the inferior colliculi, there is membrane called the superior medullary velum, which stretches between the two superior cerebral peduncles, and they helps to form the roof of the fourth ventricle. So this is the superior medullary velum, which forms the roof of the fourth ventricle. Once again, this is the superior colliculus, superior brachium, inferior colliculus, inferior brachium, and this is the superior medullary velum, which forms the roof of the roof of the fourth ventricle. So move on to the internal features. The midbrain comprises two lateral halves. They are the cerebral peduncles. So one on each side. These are the two cerebral peduncles. Each of the peduncle is divided into cross cerebri. So here we can see this is the cross cerebri from here to here. This is the cross cerebri. The darker one is the substantia nigra. And from here to the cerebral aqueduct is the tegmentum, and the remaining portion is the tectum. So cross cerebri, this much area, this is the substantia nigra, up to here is the tegmentum, and the remaining portion is the tectum. So individual cerebral peduncle is divisible into cross cerebri, substantia nigra, tegmentum and tectum. So the demarcation between cross cerebri and the tegmentum is the substantia nigra, and the demarcation between tegmentum and the tectum is the cerebral aqueduct. So cross cerebri are separated from each other by the interpeduncular fossa and form the tegmentum by the substantia nigra, as I discussed right now. Tegmentum of the two sides is continuous across the midline and maintains the continuity of the tegmentum of the pons. So this is the continuation of the tegmentum of the pons. So cerebral peduncles divisible into cross cerebri, substantia nigra, tegmentum and the tectum. A narrow cavity of the midbrain is called aqueduct or aqueduct of Sylvius, which connects the third ventricle with the fourth ventricle, and the part of the midbrain behind the aqueduct is called the tectum. So this is the tectum. So cross cerebri, it contains the large bundle of the descending fibers which connect the cerebral cortex to the spinal cord, cranial nerve nuclei and the pons and the cerebellum. So it connects the fibers which connects the cerebrum with the spinal cord and pons and the cerebellum. So they are present on the cross cerebri. So it consists of the large bundles of the fibers. So corticospinal and corticonuclear fiber, they occupy the middle 2/3 part of the cross. So middle 2/3 part means like this. So this much area is occupied by the corticospinal tract, corticonuclear tract, and the frontopontine fiber, they occupy the medial part of the cross cerebri, whereas the temporopontine fiber, they occupy the lateral part of the cross cerebri. Once again, the cross cerebri, it consists of bundle of the descending fibers. Among them, middle 2/3 part is occupied by the corticospinal fiber and corticonuclear fiber, whereas the medial part is occupied by the frontopontine fiber, and the lateral part is occupied by the temporopontine fibers. So it consists of the descending fibers from the cerebral cortex to the cranial nerve nuclei of the pons, spinal cord, and the cerebellum. And the tegmentum, starting from substantia nigra to the cerebral aqueduct, is important. It consists of important masses of the gray matter as well as the bundles of the fibers. So here we can see the fibers of the cerebellar peduncles. The nuclei can be seen, the trochlear nuclei, and all the fibers are on the cross cerebri. So these are the gray matters which are present on the tegmentum. So substantia nigra is the darker part between the tegmentum and the cross cerebri. It is the pigmented seat of the neuron that lie between the cross cerebri and the tegmentum. So it is pigmented and darker in appearance, and it appears dark due to the presence of the melanin pigment. So this is the substantia nigra. So this substantia nigra is divisible into ventral as well as the dorsal part. So ventral means the anterior one and the dorsal means the posterior one. So the ventral part is also known as pars reticularis, with the large multipolar neuron, that is the GABAergic cells, are present on the ventral part or the pars reticularis, whereas the dorsal part, the pars compacta, is the small and the medium sized multipolar neurons can be seen. They are the dopaminergic cells. So the substantia nigra, it is divisible into pars reticularis or the ventral part and the pars compacta or the dorsal part. So the dorsal part, it consists of dopaminergic cell. If there is any lesion in relation to the dopaminergic cells, the person will develop the Parkinsonism. So this is the clinical importance of the substantia nigra, and is connected with the basal ganglia, cerebral cortex, and the thalamus, and it is concerned with the muscle tone connection of the corpus striatum, substantia nigra, and the thalamus. It helps in the smooth and skillful volitional act. So smooth and skillful volitional act means fine art, ballet dance, smooth movement of the muscles. They are provided by the substantia nigra and helps in the fine art, fine movement of the limbs and or the area. So the substantia nigra, it has the different connection. So it may be the direct pathway and it may be the indirect pathway. So it is connected with the cerebral cortex, corpus striatum, globus pallidus, thalamus, and brainstem and the spinal cord directly or the indirectly. So that is all about the main external features of the midbrain. Do we have any queries? Anybody? Do we have any queries? Do you have any queries? Asima, are you there? Asima? Asima, are you there? Stuti? Stuti, are you there? Ria? Ria, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And Nisha? Nisha, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay, if you have any queries, you can ask in between, okay? So move on to the internal structures of the midbrain. It can be studied at two levels, that is the transverse section at the level of the inferior colliculi and the transverse section at the level of the superior colliculi. So if we cut the midbrain at the level of superior colliculus and at the level of inferior colliculus, what are the important features we can find? So okay, so talking about the at the level of the inferior colliculus. So the central gray matter presents the following features. One of the very important features is the trochlear nerve nuclei. So this is the cerebral aqueduct, central gray matter, and this is the nucleus of the trochlear nerve, fourth cranial nerve. And here we can see on each side is the mesencephalic nucleus. So that is the main features in this section. Trochlear nuclei on the ventral wall just posterior to the medial longitudinal fasciculus. We discussed before about the medial longitudinal fasciculus, okay, in the pons and the medulla oblongata. So the trochlear nerve first forward and then laterally, and then winds backward around the central gray matter and decussate with the opposite fellow on the superior medullary velum like this. Okay, so this is the trochlear nerve and this is the trochlear nerve nuclei. And mesencephalic nuclei of the trigeminal nerve responsible for the movement of the muscles and the joint in relation to the head and neck. So TMJ and muscles of mastication like this. So the proprioception is accepted by the mesencephalic nucleus. So this mesencephalic nucleus of the trigeminal nerve is present on the lateral wall, which represent the general somatic afferent column and receives the proprioceptive sensation of the head and neck region. So this is the mesencephalic nuclei. The inferior colliculus lie in the tectum. So here we can see the inferior colliculus in the tectum, and decussation of the fibers of the superior cerebellar peduncles, which occupy the central part of the tegmentum. This is the superior cerebellar peduncle, the decussation of the fibers. The fibers after decussation, it proceeds as the ascending and descending tract, and the reticular formation is there. So this is the regions of the reticular formation. So it is situated on the lateral aspect of the decussation. Rubrospinal tract, tectospinal tract, medial longitudinal fasciculus also lie on the ventrodorsal and dorsally to the decussation of the superior medullary velum. So here. And other is the medial, trigeminal, spinal and lateral lemnisci are there. So they are the continuation from the medulla oblongata and pons to the midbrain. So this is the medial lemniscus, spinal lemniscus, and the lateral lemniscus and trigeminal lemniscus, they are present here. And they are present on the dorsal to the lateral part of the substantia nigra. So this is the dorsal and the lateral part of the substantia nigra. And also cross cerebri and substantia nigra can be seen in this section. So they are the important features which are present on the section of the inferior colliculi. So very important is the mesencephalic nucleus and the trochlear nerve nuclei. So at the level of superior colliculi, so here we can see the section of the superior colliculus. The central gray matter, it consists of oculomotor nucleus. So here we can see the nuclei, which is the oculomotor nerve nucleus. So oculomotor nerve nucleus on the ventral wall, the fibers of the oculomotor nerve passes anteriorly through the red nucleus to emerge on the medial side of the cross cerebri. So we have seen the nerve, oculomotor nerve on the medial side of the cross cerebri, and this one is the red nucleus. So this is the nucleus of the oculomotor nerve. And also we can see the mesencephalic nucleus of the trigeminal nerve on the lateral wall. So these are the important features which are present on the superior colliculus. So superior colliculus, nucleus of the oculomotor nerve traversing the red nucleus, and mesencephalic nucleus. of the trigeminal nerve are the important features in the at the level of the superior colliculus. And here we can see the rubrospinal tract, the tract which are originating from the red nucleus to the spinal cord. So this is the rubrospinal tract. The red nuclei is also present over here. The red nuclei is the rounded mass of the gray matter. It lies in the tegmentum of the dorsal to the medial side of the substantia nigra. So substantia nigra, this is the medial aspect, and it monitors the motor function of the cerebellum. So the fine coordinated movement of the cerebellum is also enhanced by the red nuclei. And the corticorubral and the rubrospinal tract together, they form an alternate pathway for the pyramidal tract. It is also important because the pyramidal tract, as we know, they have the fibers, corticospinal tract. Okay, so that is the pyramidal system. It also supported by the alternate pathway, that is the corticorubral and the rubrospinal. Ultimately, corticorubral and rubrospinal. Rubral is the red area, is the common, that is why corticospinal, similar to the pyramidal tract. So it forms the alternate pathway. So corticorubral and the rubrospinal tract together, they form the alternate pathway for the pyramidal system. Important for MCQs. Okay, so this is the alternate pathway of the pyramidal system, that is known as corticorubral and rubrospinal tract. Superior colliculus lies in the tectum. So here we can see the superior colliculus at the level of the tectum and forms the part of the visual reflex and responsible for the reflex movement of the eye, head and neck, and in response to the visual stimuli. So movement of the head and neck towards the visual stimuli is the reflex movement of the eye. Okay, and that is done by the superior colliculus. So medial trigeminal and the spinal lemnisci is similar as to the inferior colliculi level, but the lateral lemniscus is absent here because the lateral lemniscus is terminate in the inferior colliculi, so it is absent at the level of the superior colliculus. And the reticular formation is situated in the tegmentum lateral and posterior to the red nuclei. So these are the dispersed gray matter known as reticular formation. So they are situated on the tegmentum lateral and the posterior to the red nucleus. Dorsal tegmental decussation. The fibers from the superior colliculus decussate and descends as the tectospinal tract. Ventral tegmental decussation, the fibers from the red nuclei decussate and descends as the rubrospinal tract, this one. And pretectal nucleus close to the lateral part of the superior colliculus and is concerned with the pupillary light reflex somewhere here. Lateral part of the superior colliculus, pretectal nucleus are there and they are responsible for the pupillary light reflex. That is all about the section of the superior colliculus and inferior colliculus. So don't forget the nuclei of the oculomotor nerve, which is present at the level of the superior colliculus, and other features similar to the other area. So they are the mesencephalic nucleus, the medial lemniscus, spinal lemniscus and trigeminal lemniscus, red nuclei and the rubrospinal tract. They are the main features in the at the level of the superior colliculus, whereas at the level of the inferior colliculus, the trochlear nerve nuclei and the trigeminal, spinal, medial as well as the lateral lemniscus and the red nuclei are also present at the level of the inferior colliculus. So the lateral lemniscus is not there in the superior colliculus because it is terminating at the inferior colliculus. So they are the main features which are present in the superior as well as the inferior colliculi level. Do you have any queries till now? Anybody? Move on to the applied aspect of the midbrain. As I discussed in the substantia nigra, the applied aspect is the Parkinsonism. Okay, so the dopamine content is significantly decreased in the pars compacta of the substantia nigra and the corpus striatum, and increases the tremor of the hand and feet, involuntary act of the hand, the uncontrolled movement of the hand can be seen. And that condition is treated by the L-DOPA because the dopamine or the L-DOPA can cross the blood-brain barrier, and it can enhance the striatonigral and the nigrostriate feedback, and the tremor will be corrected. So Parkinsonism is the applied aspect of the substantia nigra. So the vascular lesion of the midbrain is the Weber's syndrome. It is produced by the occlusion of the branch of the posterior cerebral artery. So last time in the class of Pons, we discussed about the branches of the basilar artery, that is the posterior cerebral artery, which is one of the component of the circle of Willis, and it gives different branches. Among them, if any branch is occluded, that can cause the Weber's syndrome, leading to the decreased arterial supply to the midbrain, and the midbrain arterial supply decreases, and it results in the necrosis of the brain tissue involving the oculomotor nerve. So this nerve is also involved, so that the ipsilateral lower motor neuron paralysis of the eye muscles will occur. Ophthalmoplegia, that is supplied by the oculomotor nerve, because these muscles, the lower motor neuron, the muscles of the eye are supplied by the oculomotor nerve. That is why if it is damaged, the person will develop the ophthalmoplegia or the lower motor neuron paralysis of the eye muscles. External strabismus, eyeball deviated laterally because of the paralysis of the medial rectus and unopposed action of the lateral rectus. Okay, look in London, talk in Tokyo, similar to that. Okay, so external strabismus. Ptosis, dropping of the upper eyelid due to the paralysis of the levator palpebrae superioris. So upper eyelid will become dropped and looks like closed eye. And the loss of accommodation of the dilated pupil due to the involvement of the ciliaris muscles and the sphincter pupillae respectively. So different functions of the eye will be altered in the case of the Weber's syndrome, and there is the occlusion or the lack of arterial supply in the midbrain because of the occlusion in the posterior cerebral artery and their branches. And the cross cerebri, the contralateral upper motor neuron paralysis due to the interruption of the corticospinal tract. The next syndrome is the Benedict syndrome due to the lesion of the tegmentum region. So this is the region of the tegmentum region. Necrosis involves the medial lemniscus, oculomotor nerve, red nucleus, and the fibers of the superior cerebellar peduncle, and the symptoms may be ipsilateral ophthalmoplegia, one-sided ophthalmoplegia, contralateral loss of pain, temperature, touch, vibratory and proprioceptive sense, hemianesthesia due to the involvement of the medial lemniscus, involuntary movement of the limbs of the opposite side, tremor, chorea, athetosis due to the involvement of the red nucleus and the superior cerebellar peduncle. In uncoordinated movement of the hands and feet will occur, leading to the tremor, chorea and athetosis. So that is all about the applied aspect of the midbrain. Do you have any queries? Anybody?